You know, Bernie Sanders is a puzzle for me. I don't know if he's a puzzle for you, but we'll try to, figure out the puzzle with his local Rhode Island director coming up tonight.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
Yes, did you know there was a Rhode Island director for Bernie Sanders? Well, there better be, because we've got a primary season that actually kind of matters. You know, delegates matter. Your vote matters this time around. Usually by this time in April, we are kind of like, there's nothing much going on. But boy, even on the Republican side, it's going to matter. And so over the next working days and weeks, we are going to talk more with the folks who are running these campaigns. I'd love to be able to say, hey, we got Bernie in today, but Bernie's a little busy running around New York right now trying to figure out if Hillary Clinton's actually qualified to be the president, which is kind of, as I said last night, kind of a silly question. But you're going to meet the new political director for Bernie Sanders here in Rhode Island after we refresh you on the latest from Bernie.
She has been saying lately that she thinks that I am, quote unquote, not qualified to be president. Let me just say in response to Secretary Clinton, I don't believe that she is qualified. If she is...
The surprising jab capped a day of escalating attacks.
I think he hadn't done his homework.
Though Clinton didn't actually call Sanders unqualified.
I'm by far the better choice. But I will leave it to voters to decide who of us can do the job that the country needs.
The Clinton campaign demanded Sanders take back his words and accused him of inventing grievances to rile his supporters. But Clinton did plenty of riling herself Wednesday.
Senator Sanders wants higher standards for toy guns than real guns.
Sanders has been criticized this week by some victims of gun violence for saying they shouldn't have the right to sue gun makers.
So we have got to do
these Sandy Hook families who say you should apologize for your position?
Well, I would say that I think that it is, we all are aware what happened in Sandy Hook is a tragedy beyond comprehension. But maybe Secretary Clinton might want to apologize to the families who lost their loved ones in Iraq.
Later, he suggested New Yorkers might not like their former senator that much because she's only 10 points ahead of him in the polls.
In my home state, where the people know me pretty well, I got 86% of the vote. Maybe that should tell the people of this country something about when people know you best, how they feel about you.
He's gotten a little feisty lately, don't you think?
Hey, Dan, thanks so much for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
I haven't introduced you yet. You're supposed to respond to the question.
Well, I just wanted to start off by thanking you for this opportunity here.
Joe Caiazzo, Rhode Island director for Bernie Sanders, who doesn't live in Rhode Island, correct?
I am these days.
We'll talk about the structure of the campaign coming up, but he is a little feisty these days. He's really throwing a lot of punches, don't you think?
Look, I think we're in the midst of a very, very, heated Democratic primary here, and I think we're going after every vote, and we're doing everything it takes to get there.
As I asked, he's getting a little feisty these days, don't you think?
I think the senator is full of personality, and I think this is somebody who speaks with passion every time he gets in front of a microphone.
Okay. You and I are going to have some fun. I'm going to try to see if I can get you into. I'm going to see if I can get you into regular person mode before the end of this broadcast. Because if we're going to have nothing but sound bites and short answers, it's going to be a challenge at the end of the week. I'll tell you that much. People know me for just kind of wanting to get down into it. So relax, take your tie off, throw your jacket off. I mean, I always do. And let's see if we can have a real conversation here. Tell me about the Bernie Sanders for President Rhode Island organization.
So we're very happy to be here on the ground. There's such a groundswell of volunteers that we're really, really happy by the things that we've seen so far. This upcoming Sunday morning, we're going to be opening our headquarters here in downtown Providence, and we're going to be hitting doors and phones, taking the senator's populist message to the voters. There are 33 delegates, 24 are up for grabs, and we're going to fight 100% to get all those delegates.
The delegate fight is interesting. Let's talk about where we are. Can you throw up the delegate count graphic there so we can take a look at some of the numbers? Thank you. 2383 needed for nomination. There's almost a couple thousand still available. 1749 for Hillary and 1,061 for Bernie right now. The thing that's got this whole sucker jammed up is the superdelegate count. Now, even if he got the superdelegates over on his side right now, it's still going to be a tough hill to climb. He's been trying to get into the soul and psyche of the superdelegates, and I think it's been fairly interesting that the Republican process has been the big discussion in terms of fixes in, what could come in Cleveland, are the party bosses and the establishment going to keep Trump from winning, all that kind of thing. And not a lot of people are talking about the superdelegate hold that Hillary Clinton has in this race, and that the establishment Democrats are really trying to hold some cards here. Talk to me about that.
Sure. Well, I think there's still a whole lot of baseball left to be played here. There's a whole number of states that are going to have their chance to have a say in here. Towards the back half of this month and into June, and I think it's important to look at what's going to shake out. I think something I'd like to point out is how much our polling numbers have actually moved in states where we set up an infrastructure and we're able to have a conversation with voters. I mean, the biggest number to look at right now is how many pledged, delegates there are. If you look back at that chart, she's only ahead by about 200 pledged. There's a lot more than 200 pledged delegates still left on the table.
Did you answer my question about superdelegates and establishment politics? I'm not so sure you did.
I mean, we're not playing the establishment game right now. The thing we're focused on
No,
is
I think
talking to voters.
my question's not a critical one. It's if you're getting my gist.
Sure, yeah.
Bernie's got an argument that establishment politics on the Democratic side are tilted, perhaps in an unfair way. The idea that superdelegates are committed to Hillary Clinton before the season starts,
of course they are.
is a concept that I don't think a lot of Democrats have learned. Mm-hmm. Right? How do you explain that the ball game started with Hillary up too many points before the thing started, to use your metaphor, and B, is there a realistic possibility that could change, that the superdelegates could throw up and go in another direction?
I absolutely think there's a chance that things change. I mean, if you take a look around the country and you look at a state, hypothetically, like up in New Hampshire, a place where the senator, he won by 20 points, or some states out, or some states out west where the senator won by some pretty big, the senator was pretty successful there. I think it's incumbent upon some of those superdelegates to take a look at the people who helped, get them, into public office.
So what tells you the way that the senators can be able to get that accomplished?
Well, look, I think we're going to keep doing exactly what we're doing, and we're going to keep going and battling state by state. I think when it comes down to it, the folks, I think the candidate who has the most number of pledged delegates at the end of this process will be the nominee. I do not believe that superdelegates will be the ones who go and decide who's the nominee of the Democratic Party.
You think the number of pledged delegates will make the determination? So you think there's a fighting chance that he can win in that category?
Absolutely, absolutely. I have enough faith in the process too to know that.
Because he's going to flip what states out there that are projected not to be his right now?
I mean, frankly, we weren't supposed to win in a whole number of states where, that we came back in. And if you look, throughout this whole entire process, we've been able to move the dial on a whole number of points. Hypothetically, up in Massachusetts, in the fall we're down by 30 points. We did come up short, but only came up short by just under 2 points. A state like Michigan that we were supposed to lose, we made a rally and we came back and we did very well. Out in Wisconsin, we were down in the polls heading into that about 2-3 weeks out, and then things started to climb. Look over in New York now. Now I'm not saying that I'm not saying that we're going to win in all these states. I'm just saying that if you follow the trend, we're definitely able to go and move the numbers.
What do you think puts it over the top? If you actually think you've got a legitimate chance of playing catch up and surprising Hillary Clinton in other states, what's going to be the issue that'll do it for you?
Well, I want to be crystal clear first. I do acknowledge the fact that this is going to be an uphill battle. But there is a pathway, and I think the biggest thing to focus on is the voters are definitely buying what we're selling. They're definitely picking up what we're going and putting down.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second.
Populist message is certainly what's going and turning the dial.
So you think just the platform, just as issues, and we'll talk about some of those when we come back in the next segment. But you think the, for lack of a better term, usual and sundry arguments that the candidates are making will close the gap and win the day? I guess let me not hedge my bets here. I'm confused over Bernie Sanders' sportsmanship early on in this campaign, where he said, I don't want to hear about your emails. I'm tired of talking about your emails. Seems to me if Donald Trump wasn't owning, a lot of the news cycle, that Hillary Clinton's email issues would be front and center and be a real Achilles heel. Did he make a mistake in putting that away as something that he can't use in his toolbox?
I don't think so. I think there's enough positive things in that toolbox that that we can use to go and and push the ball down the field. I think the message, I think the populist message.
Yeah, but he seems to be getting more fed up with her and she with him. It's all part of the grind. I just wonder if he goes to bed at night thinking, "Damn, I shouldn't have taken away that email thing," because right now, it is the elephant in the room in the Democratic race, don't you think?
No, I actually don't think that her emails are going to make a difference in the Democratic primary. I think what's important is talking about the issues that's important to the primary. Excuse me, it's important to the folks who are going to be coming out and voting in the primary. That's going to be what makes the difference. Not somebody's emails, not things along those lines.
Okay, I'm sure I buy that, but it's all right. That's why they play the game. When we come back, we'll talk about some of those issues that he thinks, that Joe thinks, are the winners. Stay with us.
In unprecedented manner in American history, we have, up to this point in the campaign, received over 6 million individual campaign contributions.
I can fill in the blank at an average of $27 a piece, right? Isn't it?
Absolutely.
It never moves off $27,
Hey,
does
listen,
it?
we couldn't be happier about
$28.50, $26.25. I mean, is it just right? It's always right in that $27
Hey, listen,
average.
It's all public. Everything's in the FEC reports.
Yeah, I bet. Joe is the political director in Rhode Island. He's renting a Motel 6 in order to be able to sit here and say he's from. Because you're a Massachusetts guy.
I am from Massachusetts.
Listen, by the way, we've got a big Massachusetts audience, so you don't have to hide.
No,
you don't have to hide.
I'm a Patriots fan.
But what I don't get, though, let me just the Rhode Island directorship had to go from an out-of-state guy. Is that an indication that there was nobody that wanted to sign on here in the Democratic establishment? Or?
No, absolutely not. And
No?
we're definitely, the Democratic establishment.
This is a Hillary Clinton state, by the way.
Sure. And so is New Hampshire.
Yeah.
I think where your public officials are and where your activists are two totally different things in the Democratic primary.
Agreed. But is there anybody? Are you going to preview for me that there's going to be some establishment Democrat that's going to sign up as the Bernie Sanders something?
We certainly have a laundry list of public officials and people who are leaders in the community who are going to be with us in this campaign.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we got to
stay
wait to the
tuned
next
and
show.
I will. Yeah, exactly. Tell you that
You
tune
guys
back
are
in
too
next
much.
week.
The political, the business of political operation is enough to make me want to pull my hair out. But anyway, I appreciate your holding down the fort. I get what you're trying to do. So let's talk about. Listen, the donation thing is, I think, impressive. I wouldn't vote for Bernie Sanders if he was the last guy on the planet. I want you to know that.
You sound like my uncle.
But I have a lot of respect for what he's been able to do, and he is making tremendous arguments about the business of politics today, and for that I give him credit. And although I kid about the $27, I think that's impressive, and I think it's shaken a lot of people in the way big-time campaigns have been run for a long time. Yes?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's really fascinating in the sense of, we have so many low-dollar donors, but those same people aren't just going and giving us a contribution. These people are making a contribution, then they're going and knocking on doors, and they're going and calling their friends and neighbors, and they're going and registering voters. I mean, these people are essentially, for lack of a better term, buying stock in something that really means a lot to them. They talk a lot about the youth, and is the youth vote real, and are they excited? Yes, they absolutely are. I mean, to give you a bit of a look at this, over the winter months, we were sending people out there canvassing, door to door. So we actually couldn't use pens because it was so cold. It was so cold that the pens would freeze. So we had to buy a box of golf pencils. And that's I think that's a pretty good testament as to how committed, as to how pumped up and committed our people are to Bernie. They're making all these small dollar contributions, and they're putting in the legwork.
Yeah, a lot of young people. I did a lot of stupid things politically when I was young myself. I voted for Jimmy Carter. Never forgave myself for that. We have a very interesting political trend in America today. I think Bernie and Donald Trump, although they're polar opposites when it comes to philosophy and the issues, have grabbed on to this lack of I don't want to do it, or this notion that they don't want to do it the way it's always been done before. Mm-hmm. But I have to tell you, I sit there and I listen to Bernie talk about free college education as I'm writing checks for my own daughter's tuition. thinking, is there a reimbursement program, Bernie? Because I have no idea how in God's green earth he thinks that he can make even public education on the college level free. I've never heard him explain the math, and I don't have any understanding as to how he's going to explain that to all the people who've dumped in hundreds of thousands of dollars of tuition money. Got an answer for that?
Yes, so I'm not going to dive
As
too
a
much
recent
into
grad
the
about
weeds.
7 years ago.
I am a recent
Still
grad.
wet behind the ears.
I am a recent
You got student
grad.
loans, by the way?
Of course, they have student
Yeah.
loans.
How does that make you feel there, Bal?
I mean, listen, every month you got to, pay that check.
Yeah.
You got to go.
So how are you
going to
feel about paying that check to your? I won't out you. You're nice school you went to in Florida. But I mean, you're writing your checks and your student loans, and Bernie wants to make it free going forward. I mean, how in the hell is that?
Well, a couple things I'm going to say about that. It's part of the senator's debt-free college plan is for state colleges and universities. I chose to go to a public college. I knew what I was getting into when I signed those loans. I think the other point that I'd like to make is, look, K through 12, we're able to fund that properly, and I do believe that, the senator, has laid out a plan in depth where, they will be able to find a way to fund these institutions.
I just asked you how he's going to do it.
Well, listen,
I didn't need confirmation that he had a plan. I'm asking you what the plan is.
So if you check out the website, there's a much more in-depth and much better, way to go and explain it than I could ever, try to do.
Well, you have to know these things if you're the political director.
Of course.
Where's the pot of money coming from?
Well, I mean, I think it comes from a couple of places. I think it comes from going and I think it comes from going and, shutting these big time, major tax loopholes that we have out there now. And everyone should be paying their fair share. And I think when you create an environment where everyone's paying their fair share, then you're certainly able to do a whole number of things.
Do you really think philosophically, obviously you don't know the numbers, but philosophically, the idea that collegiate education, post-secondary education ought to be a no-charge thing where kids and/or families don't have some sweat in the game is actually a good idea?
Well, I certainly think you have sweat in the game, and it isn't the type of deal where it's like, look, go and kick your feet up in a college dorm room for the next 4 years. I mean, debt-free college is the type of thing where you have the opportunity to go take courses. I mean, this is not the type of thing where it's going to be like a free check for your housing or things along those lines. This is essentially focused to go and create, the workforce who is better educated, able to get out there down the road.
And how do you think he's going to tackle this notion that everyone ought to be insured when it comes to their health care? How is that going to work?
Specifically,
how is his health care plan going to work?
Sure. I mean, you've seen it work on Medicare and Medicaid. Medicare for All certainly is a program that could work because we see it for a segment of the population as is right now. I think it's the type of thing moving towards
It's also
a single
financially
payer.
upside down and completely out of whack.
Well, I also think moving towards a single payer type of model too is going to save you money in the long run.
And how are we going to? So what are we going to do? We're going to single-handedly, with the Bernie administration, we're going to dismantle the health insurance industry as we know it today completely.
Well, I don't think it'd be like dismantling the health insurance industry.
Well, a single-payer
I think we
program
should be doing-
would certainly do that, correct?
The single payer could be, hypothetically, it could be a private insurer. It doesn't necessarily have to be the federal government.
A single private insurer, or those who compete for the chance
You
to
would
be
compete for
the
the
insurer?
chance. And this is my understanding of it. You would compete for the chance. And I think one of the things to look at is moving towards a single payer would take about a third off the top of your health care bill, which is good. Which is going to put some serious dollars and cents in the pocket of Americans.
Yeah, we'll have to check the website for more information on how this whole thing works. Even though I've read it and I still can't figure it out. When we come back, we'll talk about qualifications and the going on between Bernie and Hillary right now. Stay with us. There he is. There's some happy young people at $27 a pop and out there using golf pencils, getting everybody on board. Hey, listen, I got to give him a lot of respect. He has changed the dynamic of the Democratic race. I think he has given Hillary Clinton enough of a scare that she can't act like she's just running in the general election right now, and if she doesn't watch behind her, she could get clipped. I think that would be a long shot, and I think you guys would probably say the same thing. But it's getting even more tense. There's a new debate coming up. When's the debate? The debate is
14th.
the 14th.
I believe, yeah, 14th.
But the stuff we played at the beginning of the show where Bernie's talking about Hillary's qualifications as if she's not qualified, is he having a bad day or has he not read a resume? I mean, I don't want to vote for Hillary Clinton either myself, but my God, I mean, she's got a resume that stands out, no doubt about it.
Yeah, look,
So what's he saying?
Look, at this time, the campaign stands behind the statements that are made by the senator.
God, it must really, really be a pain in the neck to do your job. You want to be, like in the shower, do you answer those questions with any kind of, come on, man. Is that all you can give me? You don't get fired if you actually say what you think, do you?
Absolutely not.
I mean,
listen, I have the best job in the world.
So the idea, so the idea that Bernie Sanders is challenging the qualifications of Hillary Clinton for the presidency of the United States is something that you stand behind. Well, can you give me some insight as to what the campaign thinks about her lack of qualifications, since she's probably got the best resume in the field?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like I said, I think the senator has said, basically all that needs to be said about this, and at this time the campaign firmly stands behind him.
What do they do when you come on shows like this? They tell you what you can and cannot say. Is that part of the preparation? And I'm seriously looking for an answer here. When you act as a political director, whether it's in Rhode Island, California, or anywhere else, is there a walking, talking script that you've got to live by on every? Not. So why wouldn't you elaborate on whether or not Hillary Clinton is qualified or not?
Because I actually believe that I believe that the campaign stands by what
forget that you're the political director for Bernie Sanders. If I asked you, as a good Democrat, and you are.
I'm a great Democrat. I used to work for Elizabeth Warren.
Elizabeth Warren is Elizabeth Warren got a resume that would qualify her for a presidential run either now or someday?
I mean, I hope so. I don't know. I'm not qualified.
Well, I think people do think she does. But if you zero base this and you were not with Bernie Sanders, would you think that Hillary Clinton has a resume qualifying her for the presidency of the United States? Yes or no?
Look, I'm not here to weigh in on my 2 cents. I'm here to speak on behalf of the campaign. And at this time, the campaign does stand behind the senator in his statements he made today and yesterday.
What is the Rhode Island strategy to win here?
So it's very.
You notice I just
simple.
took you off the hook. I mean, it's 3 swings. I think people either get the point or they don't.
It's very, very simple. Our strategy here in Rhode Island is to take the senator's populist message to the doors, quite literally, of the voters here in the Ocean State. One of the things that's really cool about this state, just like Massachusetts, is you have a semi-open primary, which lets your underenrolled.
Well, you're supposed to say what's really cooler and warmer about Rhode Island is what you're supposed to say. Does the Bernie Sanders campaign have a position on the cooler and warmer flap?
So what's really cool about the state is the ability that this whole process is open to unenrolled voters, and it basically goes and broadens the pool of folks who we get to talk to. Frankly, that's a crowd where Senator Sanders does very, very well with, and our strategy here is to do this the old-fashioned way: doors and phones, talking to voters, making our case one person at a time.
Well, at least it's warm enough now that you can use pens and they won't freeze. And
I couldn't agree more.
All right, when
it's raining today.
When you bring some more identifiable Rhode Islanders who stand up for Bernie Sanders back, we'd appreciate seeing them. It was nice to meet you.
I'd be more than happy to do that. Thanks for having me on your show.
Good luck.
Thank you so much.
And don't go off script. You want to be around for a while. Final word when we come back. Stay with us. Seriously, so I guess what the campaigns do is they check on their directors to make sure they didn't go off the script, and they grade them, A, B, C, or D. Nice guy, Hopefully he'll be back, and well, I don't know about that. It's great that you tuned in. Politics is a funny game, isn't it? And coming up on Monday night, the guy who is sitting in there as a Republican waiting to run against David Cicilline. We'll see you then. Have a great weekend. Bye.